I was lucky enough to speak to Mike Rhode just before Christmas on Skype. We had a good chat for about an hour or so, and Mike's written a book called, I have a copy here, called The Sketchnote Handbook, which is phenomenal. It's a brilliant book, especially if you want to use pen and paper or artefact cards or whatever you like to just sort of like explore your ideas and take notes down and work with people using not just words but pictures and illustrations and more spatial awareness stuff. So I mean, the book itself is wonderful. It's full of lots and lots of great things. It's sort of like bigger concepts and then illustrative stuff about sort of like how to develop your style and learn new things and what you should be practicing and how to go about stuff. And then another lovely thing inside, it's got lots of other contributors, so other people who do sketch notes or whatever they call them, and just sort of like teaching, this is what I do, this is how I do it, this is how I approach it. So it's a really nice and brilliant book, and I love it, and it's just been really helpful for me in using the artefact cards just to help develop a bit more understanding of what it is I'm trying to do. So, and I was going to write a blog post about it and go, oh, this is a great way, you should try it. But I thought that was not very fitting. I thought that didn't do the book the justice it deserved. So, instead, what I'd like to do, 10 things I love about Mike Rhode's The Sketchnote Handbook. So yeah, here we go. Boom. So first thing is, I like the fact it's not a book like this. It's not a thing that you read and read and read and read, but it's like this. But it's sort of like, it lives the very purpose for which it exists. It practices what it preaches. It sort of like, it takes you through what could be quite, if it was just text, be very prosaic and straightforward stuff, but the delight of turning every page and finding something wonderful. It's amazing. It also sort of like, but it doesn't scare you. It doesn't scare you because it talks about this. It's about ideas, not art. So what you're doing is you're capturing ideas. You're not trying to make the finest drawing in the world ever. Although if you can, that helps. That's great. But ideas, not art, is something that's sort of like, is really worth remembering when you're doing sketchnoting or whatever you want to call it. Next thing is, it's about visual maps. It's about spatial awareness, about sort of like you are drawing something in a flow, and there's all sorts of different metaphors and explanations for this. But that idea of sort of like, this is a map, you're drawing a territory out, and it's sort of like you're uncovering it as you go, because I think that helps you break out of that documenty form of sort of like, this comes after this, comes after this, comes after this. And actually the next thing I love about it is the idea of sketchnoting patterns. So there's a shape of ideas, I think, and this is what I found from working with the artefact cards a lot, is sort of like the ideas of shapes. They don't follow that logical progression. They spring out in all sorts of different ways. And actually in the book there's Mike talked about 5 or 6 different sketchnoting patterns, which are all kind of different and all interesting and all serve a different purpose. Everything from paths to popcorn popping all over the place. And I just think sort of that is the natural shape of ideas, and we should embrace that as much as we can. But trying to type that stuff straight in computers makes it hard, because computers want to be very linear and fixed. So so all those things sort of go together. The next 3 things that I love about it are about a way of working. So there's a good section of sort of, because sketchnoting, Mike uses it a lot for conferences, noting down all the things that he's learning as he goes. I think that's all. Yes, it's about talks, but it's also about workshops. It's also about, there are lessons to be learned in there if you are sitting in a workshop with pens and paper and post-its or cards or whatever. How to listen well and what to grab, and not to worry about getting everything, but getting the right things. I'm a big fan of only getting the right things out of workshops, rather than that exhaustive de Bono school of, hey, write everything down, because everything's a good idea, which is not true. Then there's a really interesting thing called dual coding theory, which I hadn't heard about before, and I've been investigating more since, by Alan Paveo. It was proposed by who just sort of who talks about sort of like, as you note down words, if you use the sort of like the part of your brain that does words really well and use the part of your brain that does pictures very well, using them both together, actually it's sort of like the sum is greater than the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It really powers you into a good way of sort of like concentrating intently and getting stuff done. There's another lovely term in the book called the concentration force field. This is about sort of just getting, you shut everything out, and I find this so true. It's like you sit there with a pen and a bit of paper, artifact cards, whatever, and it's the best way to get into that state of flow. Without question. It's sort of like, I can't do it on a computer. There's no... It's like a distractive device that keeps nagging and nagging. Oh, there's something interesting over here. So that's about the sort of styles of working. And then finally, it just teaches you some really useful stuff. Like, and it's, I think it's sort of like, Mike says it's something that Dave Gray taught him. I'm a big fan of Dave's as well. About the 5 basic elements: the square, the circle, the triangle, the line and the dot. And you can draw anything with those basic elements, and you just use them in combination to draw and draw and draw and draw. It's a very simple a very simple lesson. I said letter because perhaps the most interesting thing is sort of something I learned that I was doing anyway but I hadn't quite realised, was just working up letters. So rather than just sort of like writing, and writing with a big black Sharpie helps you a lot, and then you make it big and it doesn't look quite as good. But if you double draw all the letters so that you sort of have 2 lines and then fill them in, you start to get really big, precise lines and letters and words, and it really stands out and it's really bold and really easy and quick to do. But I always go back to there was something Tom Chatfield said in a talk up at Market Reach last year, about working with pen and paper thickens your relationship with ideas. And I find with a Sharpie, moving from this into this really makes you think about what it is you're thinking about and considering. What do you mean by that word? There's words are very important, I find. And then the final thing is just some other elements. So just think about, how do I create easily the things that surround boxes, pop-outs, banners, things that draw attention. It's like the bar from the top of Keynote, all that stuff. Think about sort of play with that stuff, use your own stuff, develop your own style. So it's a brilliant book. You should definitely, if you're using artifact cards or you don't know where to start and you want to, or you just want to try sketchnoting and however you wish, moleskins, notepads, whatever, etc. I can thoroughly recommend Mike Rhode's Sketchnote Handbook, and that's 10 things I love about it. And I'll put a link down below it in the post.